In 1870, experts said it was impossible, too long, too dangerous, too ambitious. A bridge suspended over the East River, longer than any ever built, connecting two cities that didn't even fully trust each other. And yet, on May 24th, 1883, fireworks exploded over a structure that would redefine New York forever, the Brooklyn Bridge. But this bridge was built through explosions, paralysis, political scandal, and one woman who stepped forward when no one else could. This is the story of the bridge that should not exist. Before the bridge, Brooklyn and Manhattan were separate cities. The only connection was by ferry across unpredictable water crowded with ships and choked with winter ice. Then came John A. Roebling, a German immigrant and visionary engineer. He believed suspension bridges could span distances that others thought were impossible. His design was radical. Two massive Gothic stone towers rising 276 feet above the river, four enormous steel cables, and a main span stretching 1,595 feet, the longest in the world at the time. Most suspension bridges used iron. Roebling insisted on steel wire, stronger and more resilient. It was an enormous risk. No bridge of this scale had ever used it before. Construction began in 1869. Weeks later, Roebling was dead after a ferry accident. His son, Washington Roebling, took over as chief engineer. To build the towers, workers first had to go down, deep below the river. They constructed gigantic wooden caissons, essentially upside-down chambers, and sank them into the riverbed. Inside, compressed air kept water out while workers dug mud, sand, and boulders from beneath the East River. It was dark, hot, dangerous. Fires broke out underground. Explosions shook the chambers. Men began collapsing with a mysterious illness, severe joint pain, paralysis, even death. Today, we know it as decompression sickness. Washington Roebling himself was stricken. He became partially paralyzed and largely confined to his home. The most ambitious bridge in the world was now being directed from a bedroom window. That is when Emily Warren Roebling stepped forward. At first, she carried messages between her husband and the engineers on site. But she quickly realized that to defend the project, she needed to understand it fully. She studied advanced mathematics, stress analysis, and cable construction. For more than a decade, she became the bridge's field representative and de facto chief engineer. She managed contractors, she handled politicians, she defended the design against critics who claimed Washington was unfit to lead. Without Emily, the bridge likely fails. Instead, it rises. Workers spun the cables in place, walking back and forth high above the East River, pulling thin strands across the span until the cables grew into thick bundles nearly 16 inches in diameter. On May 24th, 1883, the bridge finally opened. President Chester A. Arthur attended the ceremony. More than 150,000 people crossed on the first day. The longest suspension bridge on Earth. A triumph of steel over stone, of innovation over doubt, and of perseverance over tragedy. More than a century later, the Brooklyn Bridge still carries cars, cyclists, and millions of footsteps each year. It survived corruption. It survived illness. It survived the impossible. And it remains proof that when vision meets resilience, cities change forever. The Brooklyn Bridge was not just built across a river, it was built across fear. And it still stands today as one of New York City's icons.